Hello everybody, and welcome to a video series I'm calling Just for the Goofs. Today we're going to be reading characters based on vibes, but very quickly, a brief intro. In my workshop class, we were reading Audre Lorde's Uses of the Erotic as Power, which was excerpted from Sister Outsider, Essays and Speeches by Audre Lorde, and my professor gave me a really interesting thought. What if Lorde is trying to tell us, not necessarily about the erotic, but about the larger tradition of writing? And I was like, say more right now! So in Lorde's essay, she has a few selections that pique the class's interest in regard to what my professor said. And she writes this: "The erotic has often been misnamed by men and used against women. It has been made into the confused, the trivial, the psychotic, and plasticized sensation. For this reason, we have turned away from the exploration and consideration of the erotic as a source of power and misinformation, confusing it with the pornographic. But pornography is a direct denial of the power of the erotic, for it represents the suppression of true feeling. Pornography emphasizes sensation without feeling. The erotic is a measure between our sense of self and the chaos of our strongest feelings. It is an internal sense of satisfaction to which, once we have experienced it, we know we can aspire. For having experienced the fullness of this depth of feeling and recognizing its power in honor and self-respect, we can require no less of ourselves." During World War II, we bought sealed plastic packets of white uncolored margarine, with a tiny, intense pellet of yellow coloring perched like a topaz just inside the clear skin of the bag. We would leave the margarine out for a while to soften, and then we would pinch the yellow pellet to break it inside the bag, releasing the rich yellowness into the soft, pale mass of margarine. Then, taking it carefully between our fingers, we would knead it gently back and forth, over and over, until the color had spread throughout the whole bag of margarine, thoroughly coloring it. I find the erotic such a kernel within myself. When released from its intense and constrained pellet, it flows through and colors my life with a kind of energy that heightens and sensitizes and strengthens all my experience. We have been raised to fear the yes within ourselves, our deepest cravings, but once recognized, those which do not enhance our future lose their power and can be altered. The fear of our deepest cravings keeps them suspect and indiscriminately powerful, for to suppress any truth is to give it strength beyond endurance. The fear that we cannot grow beyond whatever distortions we may find within ourselves keeps us docile and loyal and obedient, externally defined, and leads us to accept the many facets of our own oppression as women. Audre, my beloved, thank you. What really seemed to pique our interest about this was not the sexual definition of the erotic, but the sensual. The idea that you can couple and uncouple this internal intuition about words and images and relationships and meanings, all of that. So then what this reminds me of is how people within a fandom will read a certain character to be trans or queer or neurodivergent, based on their own experience with these methods of identity, but those characters won't have explicitly said anything related to those identities. Their only answer is kind of like, well, they just gave me that vibe. So, based on what I'm reading from Audre Lorde, and based on the discussion we had in class, I'd like to put forth the position that these vibes that we're reading from characters are not necessarily loose associations we've made based on personal bias, but are intuitively made with informed first-hand experience with identifiers like gender, neurodivergence, ethnicity, culture, things like that. That being said, as the title of my video states, I will now be reading a battery of characters based on what we would define as vibes, but what Lorde may define as the erotic. Okay? Okay, here we go. Bucky Barnes, autistic and also gay. Loki Laufeyson, indigenous, ADHD. This is not so much based in vibes, is more along the lines of when I'm watching him do this salad metaphor with Mobius in the Loki series. I kind of just went, haha, I do that. Because exactly what he does in that scene, just like improvising things that he can use as a metaphor to explain something, is exactly what I, as a person with ADHD, do when I'm trying to explain something to someone. So, like, I see it. Thor Odinson, asexual. Brunhilde / Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson's character, lesbian. Bruce Banner, autistic. Steve Rogers, trans and also gay. Vision, asexual. Wanda Maximoff and Natasha Romanoff, bisexual. Tony Stark, ally. Sam Wilson, gay. Clint Barton, undetermined. He's just out here vibing. He's having a time. I respect that. Eddie Brock, bisexual. Venom, pansexual. Fox Mulder, indigenous. ADHD. Data Scully, autistic. Fox and Data, bisexual. Assistant Director Skinner, and I say this with all the bisexual love I have in my heart. Gay, gay, homosexual, gay. The Lone Gunman. Polyamorous gays. They're in a throuple. Deep Throat. Ally. The Smoking Man. Homophobe. Jesse Pinkman. Trans. Taranga Leela. ADHD. Philip J. Fry. ADHD. Bender Rodriguez. Ally. Professor Farnsworth. Pansexual. Lisa Simpson. Autistic polyamorous lesbian. Again, this isn't so much based on intuition or vibes, and more on the fact that Matt Groening made her a polyamorous lesbian as a joke, and Fox was too chicken shit to make it canon. Bart Simpson. ADHD bisexual. Finally, Milhouse Van Houten. Homophobe. That's all I have for right now, and I'm sure there'll be more that I think of in the future, but for right now, that's all I got. I mainly did this so I could take a break from the critical analysis side of things and focus on something fun for a little while. But if you'd like me to read more characters using this framework, just leave a comment. I'll get to it eventually, I promise. Thanks. Bye.